As an undergraduate, I was a major in history and political philosophy. I actually started in graduate school in the political philosophy program at Cornell. But I'd always had a sort of hobby interest in children. I'd been a camp counselor, I was a drama counselor. So I sort of had that running parallel with my purported academic career. And when I started graduate school, while I was in political philosophy, I was volunteering at an elementary school, and by my second year, I had sort of come to a dead end with the political philosophy, and then was teaching in a public school. And a guy who I'd known from the summer camp, a guy named Yuri Bronfenbrenner, had become a friend. I knew his children, and I went to see him for sort of some career counseling. At the time, I was thinking I would teach for a year and then go back to graduate school in American history. And he said, well, why don't you try human development? So I did. And so I came to human development with a sort of hands-on experience with children, some experience as an educator, but somebody interested in the social environment through history and government, and that certainly was sort of how I got started. My second wife really illuminated a lot of things about my childhood that I had really been unaware of. For example, there was this family story that when I was about 11, my mother had her third child. I had a brother who was 5, and she had a daughter who was a colicky baby. And I was a very responsible 11-year-old, very helpful, probably to a fault. My father was a musician who worked nights, so 5 or 6 nights a week, when he would leave for work, the baby would start to cry, as colicky babies do. And I would say my mother was sort of pushed to her limit and beyond. And one day, it was a summer day, she came down and she handed me the baby, went upstairs and got a suitcase, and walked out the door, leaving me with this screaming 4-month-old baby, and said, Jimmy, take care of the baby. Well, she went about a block and sat down on her suitcase and had a cry and came back. But this had always been told as a sort of positive story in my family about how responsible I was. In fact, a couple of times I was introduced for conferences as a keynote speaker, and people will say, and he's been taking care of other people's children ever since. So it wasn't until my second marriage where my wife heard that story and said, oh my God, it's one of the worst things I ever heard. How you must have felt, how terrified you must have felt. And I had never realized how terrified or been conscious of how terrified I must have felt. So there have been a lot of experiences like that, sort of uncovering things and hearing and seeing things in a new way or for the first time, that I think have led to a different perspective on my motivation for doing professional things when I was younger, as well as some of the content as well.